Am I supposed to be hearing music?
I don't know.
What about the thing in the computer up there? You got that thing setting?
Yeah. I think Mike's got it.
All right.
Talking.
Hello. Check 1 2. Hello. Check 1 2. Hello.
And Auburn and AM 620 WTRP LaGrange.
You better buckle your seatbelts because it's going to be a show to watch.
From Tiger Communications.
Jackson, touchdown.
For 20 years, East Alabama's sports talk leader.
Swing and drive, mountain right.
Sportscall.
Oh, what a dunk.
Call in now at 887-3401 locally.
Right through, he got it.
Or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sportscall.
Hello again, everyone, and good Tuesday afternoon. Welcome into the latest edition of Sports Call. I am Andy Graham alongside Randy Lee, and we'll be with you for the next 2 hours, taking your phone calls and discussing everything relevant in the world of sports. We appreciate so much all of you out there tuning us in today, whether that be on 93.9 The Tiger or sportscallauburn.com via the internet. You can check us out on our Facebook page. You can check us out on Twitter as well. However you'd like to interact with us, we'd love to talk with you today. But we'd love for you to give us a call. Just 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free, or locally at 334-887-3401. Sports Call today brought to you by Home Place Mortgage. Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin, the region's best mortgage professionals. They'll give you rates for all new home or refinancing mortgage services. They want you to come to the right place, and that is Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin. Check them out at homeplacemtg.com. A lot to talk about on today's show, as we always do. The world of sports never seems to sleep. There's always something going on, and there's a lot going on in the world of Auburn sports. It was a busy weekend around the Auburn sports in general. Auburn unfortunately lost 2 of 3 to the Texas A&M Aggies in kind of a slugfest over the weekend at Plainsman Park. Auburn takes on Alabama State tonight at 6 o'clock, and then this weekend they'll travel to Fayetteville to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Softball team traveled on the road to Starkville and took 2 of 3 from Mississippi State over the weekend. They'll be in action tomorrow versus Georgia State, and then this weekend they'll welcome in South Carolina. Unfortunately, the Auburn Tigers fell to Baylor in the NCAA women's tournament. That ends the season for the Auburn Tigers, but it was a successful season. Coach Terry Williams Flournoy takes Auburn to the NCAA tournament for the first time since the 2008-9 season, when Auburn won 30 games and was, I believe, a 2 seed in that tournament, as they eventually lost to Rutgers. So Auburn winning the SEC that year. But it was a good year. Auburn, making it to the NCAA tournament, winning a game over St. John's in the first round, but falling to the number 1 seed Baylor Bears. And really, Auburn just significantly outmatched in that game. The Auburn's gymnastics team finished 4th in the SEC at the SEC championships in Little Rock over the weekend. They found out, I think yesterday, that they'll be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They'll travel to Ann Arbor. Michigan will be hosting. Michigan's the number 2 seed. So Auburn, I think Stanford, Eastern Michigan, Penn State, and New Hampshire in that particular regional. So I think the top 2 teams will move on. And they will compete, and they will compete at the NCAAs. So that one, I think, in Ann Arbor, April the 2nd. So that coming up pretty soon here. Spring practice cranking back up on the Plains after taking a week off for spring break. So Auburn getting back at it tonight, I believe, this evening. It's been an entertaining tournament so far in the NCAA men's bracket. We are down now to the Sweet 16. Oddly enough, this is just a kind of a weird year, but more upsets than there have been since 2001. I think 13, technically one of the lower seed beat the higher seed, but yet now we're in the Sweet 16. No Cinderella. I mean, there are still 2 double-digit seeds left in the tournament. That'd be Gonzaga and Syracuse playing each other. But how can you possibly consider either one of those a Cinderella? So a lot of big names in the tournament, a lot of exciting action. 1 SEC team, 6 ACC teams in the Sweet 16. We'll talk about that if you'd like to this afternoon. Brian Matthews hopefully will join us at 4:30. We'll get caught up on everything going on and get his insight on everything happening in the world of Auburn athletics. Randy, it's good to see you today. You were not here Friday. You were in Mississippi, but covering the Alabama-Mississippi basketball high school all-star game. Just talk a little bit about that experience.
Well, I mean, it was a good experience outside of we lost both of them late in the contest. And our girls team, I said, I don't think anybody's listening in from Mississippi. If we'd played them 10 times, we would have won 9 out of 10, and we led by 16 with about 8 minutes to go, and ends up not going our way. I tell you, there's one thing that always maybe concerns me a little bit when I go over and watch. It's the lack of the top player each and every year going to Auburn or Alabama, and it's not happening. Let me tell you, I mean, we got one girl that was on the team. She played at Austin High School. She is a 2-guard. I think she's a good fit. She'll be a good player at Auburn. But when you look down the top talent, and I'm not talking about just Alabama's team, because Mississippi's team as well. You watch Mississippi State play, but they're point guards from not Shades Valley, but she's from the Birmingham area. Maybe Shades Valley, but she's from right Center Point. She's from Center Point. She's their point. William Morgan is her name. Or it may be Morgan William. Go back and forth. I'm sorry. But nonetheless, Victoria Vivians, I believe, is their 2 or 3 guard that scores light. She's lights out from Mississippi State. Both those girls played against one another 2 years ago. Well, the last time we were over in Mississippi. One for Alabama, one for Mississippi. But they both go to Mississippi State. Our top player here in state this year, Jasmine Walker, who's from Jeff Davis High School. She's heading over to Florida State to follow who was our best player 2 years ago, Shakayla Thomas, who is from Sylacauga High School. That's a standout right now at Florida State. It's it's concerning. I sit here and I read Terry Williams-Flournoy. She goes 20-13. It is a step up, but when you can't get the best ones, it's probably going to show up that you're not going to be there at the top. And unfortunately, we're just not right now, Andy.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, it makes sense. Auburn's been struggling like that and been missing out on those kind of top talent for the last several years. That's kind of the difference. I mean, that when you don't get those kind of talents, you get beat by 30 by Baylor. I mean, so I don't know what you can do. I mean, we look around in the men's, tournament in the SEC, and they're searching for ways to try to make their basketball, program better as a whole. As you look, and there's one SEC team in the tournament, only 3 make the tournament overall. There's 1 in the Sweet 16, and by all rights, they shouldn't be there. As Northern Iowa just absolutely collapses down the stretch and allows Texas A&M to sneak in. But those are questions that we've been searching for a while, but you got to keep them in state if you can.
I just think it becomes so obvious when you're out at an all-star event which players are the ones that are the SEC caliber, and they jump off the floor at you. And year in and year out, when you're going to a contest like this, you're going, okay, that one's going to Auburn, that one's going to Alabama, and Dante Hall was in it last year as a power forward. The kid from Carver High School that plays a wing that's going to end up being a big player for Alabama. He was in it last year. Dazon Ingram. All 3 of those guys were on Alabama's team for Alabama-Mississippi game. Now, next year is a strong, strong class in the state of Alabama. And Auburn's got arguably the best one out of the bunch in Austin Wiley committed. There's a lot more to go with him, though. There's probably 6 or 8 SEC talent players in the state of Alabama next year alone. Petty kid from J.O. Johnson, he's anyone that has seen him will tell you he makes basketball look easy. He's that athletic, and he's going wherever he wants. So, are one of us able to keep him in state? Hopefully so. But Andy, you got to keep him. You got to be able to go out there and get the best. And right now, it is just a concern when I go over and I watch and I go, that one right there would make a difference. I look at Marquise Webb a few years ago. She's at Vandy now. She's their post. She's their leading scorer at Vandy. She played at Hoover High School. Her father was a big-time basketball player at the University of Alabama. Now she's going to Vandy. I mean, it's mind-boggling on that, and hopefully we're getting it corrected on the guy side. I'm not going to jump out and say I'm seeing it on the girl side right now.
Yeah, well, we were talking about last week winning percentages. Auburn across the board winning percentage in basketball dead last. Gotta do something about that, and hopefully you get guys like Austin Wiley, you get guys like Mustafa Heron you're bringing in this year. That'll start to change things.
We can't complain about the recruiting.
No,
we just can't. I mean, we've been watching recruiting for Auburn basketball for a good decade that I've been watching it, and it is by far the best it's been. And not only that, we didn't get a couple of the guys on the court this year that I think will get out there next year. That was also part of a very good class. And can you keep them around? That's what Jeff Lebo, he couldn't. Tony Barbie, boy, he couldn't. They couldn't keep guys around that were going to be difference makers in your program. And right now, Bruce Pearl, Simeon Bowers hung around. I'm telling you, I know we lost Kareem Canty, but I don't know anybody could have kept him. But Simeon and several others that had some issues, but they hung in there. And I think that's coaching, that's leadership, and giving them opportunities. And, these kids are going to, you were 20, 21 before. Stuff happens. Some kids stay out of trouble, but others get in it. But can you keep the guys, in the midst of the program and keep the program growing? Because these mid-tier schools that are doing the Stephen F. Austins of the world, they're ending up where they got a senior 2-guard or 3-guard or whatever he's playing, and he's making a huge difference because he's around for 4 years. He hung out in the program, and they built something around him, and that's what you're going to have to do it if you're not a top-tier school like Kentucky. I'm not even going to name another one in the SEC. Kentucky's it. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. Florida was there, and then Billy Donovan left, and now not so much. We always talk about, the SEC going to these bowl games, BCS bowl games. We used to talk about it. Now we're talking about going to the playoff and, the lucrative nature of that. Well, it works in basketball too. And the fact that the SEC keeps missing out on all this, you see that the ACC extremely, one of the most impressive things to get 6 teams in the Sweet 16, first time that's ever from one conference. But it's not only impressive, it's lucrative. They're going to get probably $30 million for having these teams into the ACC. Into the Sweet 16. There's the money comes from a basketball fund, a pool set aside by the NCAA since 1991 that rewards conferences for their teams advancing into the tournament. So basically, each game played this year is worth about $265,791 to the conference, and they split this money throughout. So the teams that don't even make the conference, if you got a conference and you make a bunch of teams, a bunch of teams go a long way. It helps the entire conference. So that's something that the SEC dollar signs mean more to the SEC. It seems like than anything else. So no doubt that's why you see them hiring somebody to try to, they bring in to try to help improve the conference in every way that they possibly can. I think we got some, good coaches. At least we have hired some here as of late, but for whatever reason, the overall level of play is just not what it once was.
Well, when was it?
Well, the 90s, you had
when you had Arkansas there and you had Florida coming, you had LSU right there at the first part of the decade.
Mississippi State had some really good years.
Yeah, I can go for that. But it seems like it's been outside of Kentucky and Florida carrying the banner. Who else has really been strong in the SEC? Alabama's been bad for a decade. They've had one
they
run?
They hadn't been too bad. They had some decent runs.
How many NCAA tourneys have they been in the last 10 years?
Well, no, that's
off the top of your head.
A couple? Say 3, maybe. Godfrey probably went to 3 in his tenure, I guess, maybe.
That's not pretty.
Well, it's not good.
Not terrible. It's not all
better than us.
We haven't been there since 3, but I'm getting back to my point. It's really been a two-headed monster.
But
in the SEC.
At times, South Carolina had, a decent run at, when Eddie Fogler was there. But I don't know. But yeah, you're right.
I think
it's
we got a long way to go.
We do.
If we're going to sit up here in which we beat the horn of the SEC in football, you got to beat the horn of the other conferences in basketball. The Pac-12 is right there with us. Just not very good. Got a long way to go. Now we got a bell cow. Now bell cow didn't play all that well against a very good Indiana team that watch out. They're well disciplined. They're well put together. I love their point. I think their point.
Guard play.
Well, I like their point. I do think Yogi Ferrell makes a difference.
He does.
I think not only by his handles, by his athleticism out there too. But nonetheless, Texas A&M's got a little bit of an upswing. And look, we'll close out this segment talking about that's the most ridiculous half minute I've witnessed. You have to go back and almost watch it several different times to say, how in the world did this happen? Tell me you were watching.
I was. Absolutely. I was watching, and I was like, good. Because that's fine. I don't care. I'm not one of these, well, let's just make sure the SEC gets somebody. I was pulling for Northern Iowa, and I was glad that they, but it kind of goes back to if you're going to win on a half-court shot, that's going to come back to bite you at some point.
It was an amazing finish by Texas A&M.
It was an amazing defense. Collapse by Northern Iowa.
It was a collapse, but it was a well-coached ending to the ball game.
No missed free throws. That was what's so crazy about it. Just throw the ball. You cannot execute an inbound pass.
They couldn't execute getting past half court.
No.
Great trapping. It was good coaching. Everything has to work out in your favor.
It was.
But it did. And they were in position to make it happen that way due to that defense pressure they put on up front. And unreal. I felt great for the conference that you got somebody through at least, and we can stay off that snide.
Yeah, that's good. Up against our first break of the show here. Give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll free locally at 334-887-3401. More to come on the way right after this.
Everybody knows you've been stepping on my toes, and I'm getting pretty tired of it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401. A lot to talk about on today's show. We're talking about the NCAA tournament in the first segment. We'll kind of carry that over into this segment. I'll go ahead and I got a question of the day, but it was kind of one that was bouncing around. We're talking about spring practice. Of course, that's going to get ramped up pretty quickly here, and that seems to be a good topic to talk about anytime. But there's some question about whether Auburn's quarterback should go live or not during spring. With John Franklin being the kind of quarterback he is, certainly that would make a lot of sense. But there are pros and cons to it all. But somebody he gets out there and gets tackled and gets hurt and separates his shoulder, and Malzahn's an idiot. So should Auburn's quarterbacks go live in the spring?
Let me give you a very quick answer as two humans sitting up here that do not coach football. That is a topic of discussion that I have no answer for. Zip. Because I think everyone has an opinion on that. You hear the old timers say, well, you can't play physical if you don't practice that way. Okay. I sure see a lot of teams in the NFL that don't practice that way, that when they get out there on Sunday, I don't want them hitting me. So I don't know. It's you can go all the way around with this. I think it's a different day and age, and you better understand it. May not like it, but it's a different day and age. And so when you ask me, I think you can tell whether someone's versatile enough to stay away from tackles without them tackling them. Am I wrong? I mean, I think you can tell side-to-side speed. I think you can tell agility. And is it a little bit different when you're bouncing off tackles like Nick Marshall was able to do a lot? Of course it is. But am I willing to put a 185, 190-pound guy that could be that important to me getting knocked around in the spring? Probably not.
The only reason you do it is for John Franklin III, because you know what you're getting from Jeremy Johnson. You know what you're getting from Sean White. You've seen them play in game action, but the only reason you do it is because of John Franklin. You say, can he handle, and really is he capable of, being truly dynamic enough so that we can just give him the keys and say, here you go.
He's in his third year of college football. And you probably watched him.
How many years? Has he actually played quarterback?
But I'm saying that how many years? I think he's already determined whether he can take contact enough or not, is my opinion.
Yeah.
Playing football, you kind of know whether you like it or you don't. And the film's going to show one way or another. Look, if his film shows that he don't like contact and he darts away from it, that's probably who he is. If his film shows that he'll get up in the mix, of course, being the size he is, he's always going to be in harm's way. So I don't know that you want to put him additionally in. Do you want to know, do you need him to go through practice to know that 190, 195 pounds has got a good chance, if hit the correct way, you could be injured? No, I kind of already know that. But, Damian Craig was that size. And could you imagine Damian Craig in today's game playing this style of football with arm strength and just the it factor that he had? Now, I'm not getting into him moving over to LSU. I'm not going to upset the apple cart with that. I've already gone off on that on this program. But just as a player, he's 190, 195 pounds. He's tough as nails. Now, these guys are just, they either are or they aren't. So I'm back to it. I'm going all over the map, Andy, to tell you that whoever has an answer to that, it's an opinion.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of the point of the show, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Do you think physical practices are a necessity in SEC football? Let's not say college football in general. Let's say SEC football, where we know the lines of scrimmage are uber important. Are physical practices like pat dye type practices, what you always heard, or are they of uber importance at this point in time? 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. You got an opinion?
I would say no, because I'm just afraid. If Franklin is, capable of being a difference maker, a big time difference maker in the SEC, and he gets hurt in the spring, then what's the point? you learn that he's good. We lost him. I mean, so, but I just, there's on the other hand, I'm like you, on the other hand, there's some things that I just don't think you can learn unless you're going live about a quarterback and what he can do and how he's going to react and things like that. So it's risky. I think either way probably, but I would probably lean toward that.
Let's go to the phone line and see if we've got a comment out there. 888-9-TIGER-9. Spencer, you're on Sports Call.
Sure, I got a comment.
What you think, Spencer?
As far as, well, here's the deal. He's not a big fella, but he's also not a porcelain doll. So as far as spring, I wouldn't go live contact. In summer, I would. At that point, you're going to be hitting somebody else with a different color jersey, or somebody with a different color jersey is going to be hitting you in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, so you may as well get ready for it. But I don't think there's anything really to be learned or gained at the quarterback position. Seeing if we can knock him around and still make plays. At other positions, at every other position, it's critical to know, apart from the holder on the extra points, who's tough enough to take a lick and give one out. That's just my thought.
Good point.
So you say definitely physical practices are a necessity in SEC football.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no question. No question. All right, enjoy the show.
Thank you, Spencer. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. I think I'm with him, especially on the lines of scrimmage. Now, that's just as much a risk, if not more.
We've seen it. We've experienced it.
But probably is a necessity. For skill position guys, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I think 7-on-7s tell the deal, too. I'm not saying that's the only thing, but agility is what you're looking for, and timing. And I do like that a quarterback's got a yellow jersey on, and timing, and somebody gets to him and blow the whistle on the play. It didn't work out. I do like that, but knocking him around a little bit, no thank you. Too important, way too important.
I'm with you. Yeah, definitely on the lines of scrimmage. I think it's as essential as anything. It's got to be physical for I don't really any conference, but especially in the SEC, no doubt about it. That's a good answer. I think no live in the spring, live in the summer. I don't have a problem with that.
888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. That's our question of the day. We talked a little bit about the NCAA tournament, 6 ACC teams getting in: Duke, Virginia, North Carolina, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Miami up against the break. Andy, first before we go, who do you like the best out of those? Who's impressed you the most? Because probably sticking in this conference unless you veer over to Kansas.
You just in the ACC or overall?
ACC and overall. I
think maybe Virginia, North Carolina probably have been the most impressive to me. I tell you, Villanova. I said they were chokers coming in, but buddy, they have put that label aside. They look strong.
They got the X factor, don't they?
They do. There's something about them, and so
I thought the same about A&M. But they just didn't play all that well in the round of 32. But they get through, and so I kind of say a little bit watch out for A&M, and I like what I saw from Indiana. Indiana owned Kentucky in the second half.
They did.
Thing was not close. I like the brand of basketball they bring, and Virginia's just a team I wouldn't want to play.
I'm with you 100%. Up against break. Hopefully when we come back, we'll be joined by Brian Matthews from auburnsports.com. Join us on the other side. More to come right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401. Having a little trouble connecting with Brian Matthews right now, so we'll forge on. We were talking about our question of the day. Should Auburn's quarterbacks go live this spring? There has been a lot of talk about that. Gus Malzahn has made mention of that a couple of times. Had a one phone call about it. No go live for Spencer. He said you open them up in the fall. Or in the summer, but not in the fall. But in the spring. But physical practice is definitely a big part of being in the SEC, and it seems like Auburn may have lost a little bit of that over the last several years. Gus Malzahn keeps continuing to say, or at least he did, last year, we've got to get our edge back. Well, that's kind of how you do that. It should be real physical. I don't know if we're going – I don't think anybody goes back to dye practices back in those days. But what passes for a physical practice today, that's what we probably do now.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Dan, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys.
How you doing, Dan?
Pretty good. I think that obviously the last year the biggest problem we had is we didn't know how our quarterback was going to handle pressure. We thought we did. But, I don't know if you have to have a situation where you're tackling them to the ground and, taking their knees out or whatever. Can't you have like a live scrimmage where, you're hitting the quarterback but you're not, trying to get them down on the ground? Because they do the same thing with players, with
I think we're losing Dan. We got a bad connection.
And
there,
I think that's what
I think he's talking about thud. Isn't that what they call it?
And I think that's what goes on. You're going to put him in a little live action situation like that with a yellow jersey on and go with it. That's I don't see any difference between 20 years ago and today when it comes to that. You're going to try to put them through. I think there's just less physical practice to go along with everybody else. I think quarterback's always been. Quarterback 20 years ago was off. We didn't get hit. You know what I mean? You play quarterback, you don't get hit that much.
Well, they're talking about voting in the Ivy League to eliminate tackling from practice altogether. We keep trying to take less and less physical stuff.
When you brought this up, this is a sticky wicket. There is no correct answer. Everybody has an opinion, and there are a lot of football teams out there that win that don't play physical. Keep their guys healthy. They've seen enough to know that they're physical when the lights come on. NFL does it. You think they beat each other up? No, sir. There's too much money on the line to be hitting Adrian Peterson too much. You've seen enough, Adrian. He's going to turn it on when the lights come on.
But those guys have proven. Those guys know exactly what you're going to get from those guys. There's some degree of question about what you're getting out of these guys, isn't it?
I guess.
Is Dan back?
Yeah, Dan, we got you back.
Yeah, hey, guys. No, I just think that you need to find out how a guy is going to maneuver in the pocket and how he's, if he does get pressure, how does he react? Because that was the problem we had. It wasn't that, maybe Jeremy needed to get hit, hard and knocked out or something. It's just he just didn't handle the pressure well, and it's almost like he got nervous in the pocket. And I think it's just because he wasn't used to it. It was like, if you never get hit, and all of a sudden, what happens when you start getting hit? How do you react? And so I just think that, if you don't at least give him some opportunities and see, I'd rather do it in the spring. So that way, if, for some unforeseen, situation, the guy does get hurt, then he has time to recover, but at least then you'll know what you need to work on. If you wait till fall, then you find out that half your guys can't handle it, then, then you're already, having to try to figure it all out at the last minute. I'd rather know now. If we got guys that can't handle the pressure now, then, we need to find some new guys, and I don't see why you should wait. But anyway.
Great call, Dan. We appreciate you. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. It's just my opinion. But my opinion, I don't think Coach Malzahn came out and told us all that about Jeremy last year because he didn't put on a show in practice or didn't put on a show in scrimmages. And he had already played well in the previous, and not just mop-up, but in starting role a couple of times previously before that. So I just don't believe some guys though when it's your turn and the lights come on and you don't know how people react to it, kind of like a guy at basketball. For whatever reason, you can go practice and you can get 9 out of 10 free throws. Lights come on, game time situation. It all of a sudden starts tensing up. And that's what separates great athletes from the ones that just can't quite get there that had all the talent in the world. And I think Jeremy does have all of it, and I hope it starts slowing down to him. And he's very confident this year because I still believe he's got a ton of talent. I don't know if we'll see it. May not be his turn again this year. May not prove it. But that's more of the feel I got from Jeremy last year. Is that not what you saw? It just looked like he lost all confidence.
Yeah, I think I mean what Dan said I makes a whole lot of sense, and I'm not taking anything away from what he said. The point is valid, but as far as Jeremy's concerned, I think it goes a little deeper than just, because he played against Arkansas. For a half, he played, in some game. He played an entire game the year before. He had seen action. We could see what he could do. He had felt pressure. He had felt those things, but it wasn't his team. He knew that Nick Marshall was on the bench. He knew that he was going to come back in. So I think it goes a little bit deeper as far as the psychology of what happened with Jeremy Johnson. I don't think it was anything physical. He just I think things started going wrong, and it just got away from him, and it was his team and all that pressure of that. So I'm not sure if we would have known if we would have gone live every day in practice with Jeremy, if it would have changed anything. It might have, but I'm not sure that it would have. I just think there was something else going on there, and it was above the shoulders.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Terry, you're on Sports Call.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call.
Glad to have you, Terry.
All right. I'm going to just give my little philosophy on Jeremy. When he first signed with Auburn, I still got the clipping out of the Montgomery Advertiser. He said, I'm going over there and teach the old man how to play football. And, when he got in there as his, sophomore year, red shirt freshman or whatever, he did absolutely great, and against some teams that really wasn't powerhouse teams. Then, last year, before the season started, he had himself build up to, I'm going to run for at least 1,000 yards, and I'm going to pass for 3,000 yards. He, by media and everything else, he was put on the pedestal of being the greatest sensation since Jesus. And he got in there against some SEC teams, and he got his butt racked around a little bit, and he didn't know what to do then. He didn't know how to recover. When you're sitting on top of the world, you don't know how to recover when you start to fall down. And that was his confidence just being taken away from it. He has all the athletic ability in the world. Now, whether he can regain his confidence and Auburn rebuilding, it's just going to be up for grabs. And that's just my opinion on that. And then you come in with Coach Malzahn's offense with triple threat. Then you got, the junior transfer in there, Franklin the third, and he fits Coach Malzahn what he really wants to do. Then you still got Sean White. It's just absolutely who knows what's going to happen. And I'll hang up and listen to your comments. But Jeremy just has been a failure because he was built up so dadgum high in his own mind from outside sources. And it, like I said, teams he played against and performed great. Go back and check. Like everybody keeps bringing up Arkansas. What did they do that year? I mean, he really and truly did not play against big name schools that was consistent all year. So I'll just hang up and listen because I know I'm ignorant. So go ahead.
Terry, we appreciate it. 888-9 Tiger 9 334-887-3401. I know we're up against a break, but I'll say this for him: didn't go his way, but I'm still a huge supporter because of the way he handled himself. I mean, you could have handled last year and the ups and downs very poorly, and I thought he handled them about as good as you could handle anything. And I'm cheering for him. If he's the guy that's chosen, going to be right there. I think it's going to be a decision that was made for the right reasons, and he's hung in here. Many people thought that he'd go ahead and transfer. He didn't do that, sticking with his guns. And if it's his to win, I hope it's Jason Campbell's senior year that we'll see over again, Andy.
Absolutely. I echo that 100%. I think there may be something to it. Terry's said this before, a couple of different times, but he made it look easy. And everything was easy, it seemed like, for him as the backup. But when it was his team, it's just a different challenge. And it just seemed like it just wasn't meant to be, or it wasn't going to work out the way, when it became his team. So when things got hard, he just didn't handle it as best on the field. But like Randy said, he handled it superbly off the field. So certainly, cheering for him. Hopefully, if he does come back and he does get the starting job, hopefully he is the guy we all hoped that he would be. If he's not, well, we'll find somebody else. Up against a break. We'll continue this question. Should Auburn quarterbacks go live in the spring? If you got an opinion about that, let us know. 1-888-9 Tiger 9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401. More to come right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you for one more segment in the first hour of today's show, and we'll start off this segment by going to the phone line.
Shadow, you're on Sports Call.
Yes. We're still debating the question of whether quarterbacks need to go live.
At least in spring practice, yes.
You mean they're not going to do it? That they're actually talking about not doing it?
Well, I think it's a question at this point. I haven't heard a definite answer one way or the other.
I don't think anybody knows what's going on, do they? There's not access to practices, are there?
I made a prediction a couple of days ago that Auburn and the coaches were going to candy out like a bunch of wimps. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If that's the case, it would not surprise me if the king of candies, the athletic director at Auburn, says, well, you know, I'm okay with it. You know, is it not bad enough that the Auburn Tigers were the laughing stock of the country before the end of September with a preseason Heisman Trophy winner sitting on the damn bench because he's now leading the country, I believe, in interceptions. And we had such a good idea that this was going to be a Heisman-winning quarterback that that's what we went to Gulf Shores or Destin, and we were all confident and we were ready to go. And now we're thinking about not going live. You know something? I got a quick answer for you. If that is the case, then they need to fire everybody, every coach up there on the football team that voted to not do it. They need to fire. I tell you what. Where's my pills? Give me my pills. You know, I tell you what. I don't know. I'm losing my freaking mind trying to figure out what in the world motivates Auburn people up there. What's this running this clown show called the football team? We're still thinking about not going live. Really? Really?
Really?
I just, you know, I can't take it no more. I'm going to take an extra pill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shadow.
Not never to be over dramatic.
Is that what you expected?
Yeah.
Shadow, we had a little talk before we came back from the previous break, and Andy was pretty close with what he thought Shadow would say. And look, are you a little bit more on that train of thought? Or did I talk you down off the cliff?
About what?
You feel a little bit more like Shadow's?
Well, look, I mean, I think there are valid reasons why you don't go live. And, I mean, if you know what you have at quarterback, then obviously you don't in the spring or really probably in the fall either. But Auburn doesn't really. I think they know what they're going to get from Johnson and White, but I don't. Maybe they know what they're going to get from John Franklin as well, and they feel good about it. Maybe they'll go live in the scrim. Maybe if they scrimmage this Saturday, they will go live. So I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying I think it's been talked about, and I've heard Malzahn say a couple of times so far in press conferences, we may go live with our quarterbacks. We may and just see what they can do. And so, you know, I don't think that's whether we go live or not, and certainly in spring training is not going to, I think, make that big a difference as far as the season goes, as wins and losses. But I don't know. Obviously, there are some pretty strong opinions about it, one way or the other.
You got an opinion one way or another about Major League Baseball going to Cuba?
I'm pretty indifferent about it. I mean, if you can't, we probably shouldn't be over there. I mean, if we're done, I mean, if we're still the the ban is still on. I mean, if you can't have, we're not trading with them, then why are we over there playing baseball? If they have to get in a boat and defect from the country to get here to play baseball in the United States, why are we over there just saying, hey, we're all buddies here?
It's weird politically to watch, isn't it?
It is.
Like all of a sudden, a few months ago, everybody was like, okay, everything's fine. Let's go back to 57, 58. Let's build us some casinos. Let's get some financiers to go down there and have them some hotels, and let's just open up the beauty. And it's weird to watch what is going on in the last few months, but it does feel like there's going to be some kind of a trade agreement that's going to be reached here in the next short time, and it seems like business is going to go back to what's that, 60 years ago,
something like that.
I mean, and the Castros are still in charge.
Last time we were doing business, Michael Corleone was in charge, I believe.
Well, that's the only reason I knew about what year it was. But I mean, Castro's still in charge.
Well, yeah. So somebody named Castro's in charge. I don't know if it's Fidel,
but yeah,
Dennis, Dwayne Castro.
It is that's a weird deal. I wonder what Cuban Americans think.
Yeah, maybe there's a Cuban American living in Auburn, Alabama. If you are, give us a call. What do you think about that? 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401. That's pretty much going to wrap up the first hour of today's show. Give us a call in the second hour. We're talking about Auburn spring training. Should Auburn go live, the quarterbacks, in spring? Again, strong opinions one way or the other. We'll talk about the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about the Auburn baseball and softball teams as they were in action this weekend as well. Give us a call. The Fox Sports Report is coming up next. We'll be back with more right after this.
Tiger 9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sports Call.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. A beautiful Tuesday afternoon it is out there. Weather's warming up. Looks like we're going to have nice weather this week, so certainly time to get out and enjoy that. But keep your radios on. Sports Call on all week. Of course, Randy and I will be with you on Thursday as well, and then Randy I and Brett will be with you on Friday. Give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free, locally at 334-887-3401. Sports Call today brought to you by Lee Marketing Group. From logo design and branding to ad placement, LMG can handle it all for ease of time, cutting edge, results driven marketing campaigns. Think Lee Marketing Group, your comprehensive marketing solution. We talked about the NCAA tournament quite a bit in the first hour of today's show, and talked quite a bit about the Auburn spring practice as it gets cranked back up this evening. Our question of the day was, should Auburn quarterbacks go live this spring? And we've had a good response to that. Got some answers both ways, and I don't know if there is a right answer, but certainly there is some passion from some listeners out there that Auburn definitely should go live. And but we'd like to know how you feel about it. Do you think that's something Auburn needs to do? Gus Malzahn has toyed with that idea this early this spring about how to handle that. But with not the quarterback position being wide open, is that really the only way to gauge who should win the job? Letting the quarterbacks go live. So that is the question of the day. A lot to get to in the second hour of today's show, and we'll bounce around a little bit. But if you got a topic you'd like to talk about, by all means, give us a call.
A lot of bit, Andy. We're going to bounce around a lot of bit here in the second hour of the show.
1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401. We'll open with an interesting story, one you don't see very often. But Steve Alford, head coach at UCLA, been there for, I guess, 2 or 3 years now, gets an extension, 1-year extension to his contract. I think a couple of years ago, after he takes UCLA to the Sweet 16, well, the Bruins went 15-17 this year and finished 10th in the Pac-12, and he has given back his extension. Said that basically they didn't earn it. He says at the end of the day, year 3 was clearly not up to UCLA standards. My coaching staff and I fell short not only of our own expectations, but the expectations of athletic director Dan Guerrero, the chancellor, and you, our fans. As a coaching staff, we intend to earn that extension back. That extension was for the 2021 season. So interesting. Don't know as I've ever heard of a coach kind of doing that.
You wouldn't, because an agent wouldn't let him. So you've got to, demand and show, I guess, value. And you want to talk about a feel-good story. This is the way. I hate to say it, but the way that agents have these contracts fixed up now. How many times have we come on this program and go, how in the world did we get suckered into that contract? But you get suckered into it because, you have this nice flash in the pan, and it all looks real rosy at that time. And the fan base is giving outcry, boy, don't lose him no matter what. Everybody in the world wants him. And, the agents out there working the media and working this PR, firms to make sure that you're thinking the same thing. And Sexton, by the way, he's the best at this. And next thing you know, you're in a 6-7 year deal that 2 years later they look up and you go, this got to be the worst team we've ever put on the field. Does that sound like Gene Chizik to you? And that's exactly how these things work out. Well, this is Steve Alford's just a stand-up guy when you do something like this. Andy, I'm sorry. And you may say, well, he's ignorant on a business sense, but I think he's making plenty of money, and I think that he's well sought after. So for me, I think it's great. Do you agree?
Well, here's the pessimist in me, and I try not to be that way, but is this, he's giving back, he's saying, I'm giving back this extension. Is it more about show than it is anything else? this comes out right on the heels of two banners being put out on the campus wanting to fire him. So I
think contract-wise, no, Andy.
No.
Not contract-wise. The extension probably has a whole lot of, verbiage in there that.
But he got a long time to earn it back. This is for 2021. But the extension.
I think that probably gives the school an out. There's got to be some kind of contract change. If there's not, then it is just a whole bunch of malarkey. But if it's part of changing the contract and there's no buyout and there's no clauses that are built in, then I would say this is different than that. Otherwise, you may be dead on. Let's go back to the phone lines. Grenade, you're on Sportscall.
Hey, guys.
Hey, glad to have you on, bud.
Jump back. All right, thanks. Great show. I'm going to jump back to the going live and kind of split the argument in the middle. I don't want to agree with Shadow all the way. That means I'm doing something wrong. But I'm going to say, I think they do need to go live more because we finished last in the West, right? So whatever you did last year, and we don't know what Gus did because he's so, tight-lipped. But whatever you did last year, you need to do it different this year, right? Don't do what Chiswick did when we never won a game in the SEC all year. And week after week, he kept using that phrase, we just going to keep chopping wood. Just keep chopping wood. Nobody, you need to change. You need to pull out a chainsaw. Whatever you did, do something different, right? So, to me, when you're last in the West and maybe you have been manhandled a little on the line, I have no problem with going live and picking it up. I mean, that can really help you see who can give a lick, who can take a lick, and it builds some excitement. So I hear, you could blow out a knee and all that, but listen, you can do that in the first season game. You can do that in the scrub game. I've seen people blow out knees not going live, but just doing stupid stuff, just running a route and grab the grass. So I think when you start thinking about getting hurt, you get hurt. So just let them go live. And it's like everything. You do it more in the spring. You might do it in the beginning of fall. As you get closer, you do it less and less. Sometimes it don't take but 15, 30 minutes to go in live to get everybody pumped up and get them excited and give the coaches a chance to see who can do what and just get them hungry for it. That's for everybody else. So, Randy, I think you said you were a quarterback. I'm going to just say quarterbacks are different. They've always been different, and that's a different deal altogether. But you don't have to hit them. I mean, that shouldn't even be an issue, right? I don't want my quarterback taking a lick. I don't want my quarterback hit. But when you go live and you have a hand touch the guy in the red jersey, then what's his name? Herb Hand. He's the one who loses his mind right there. So you can go live, and, that's something they tell them all the time. Go full speed. See the red jersey, though. You just lay a hand on it. That's all that's needed. Herb Hand can then go kill somebody and scream at the offensive line. That's all you need on him. Now, one question I do have, since we're not at practice, we don't know. But I don't think Jeremy's problem was he couldn't take a lick. So going ahead and tattooing one on your quarterback, that's not the issue, right? But we don't know how Gus does it, but I do know how Coach Dye did it. Lately, scout team guys would run with the receivers and it's supposed to be in their back pocket. But when the ball gets there, don't knock it away, right? Because they want them to work on throwing and catching. And I always had an issue with that because it's not the same as the game. If that's live, I say that's what you need to do because Jeremy needs to see the speed of the play. Everybody needs to be live, but just don't hit the quarterback. Go fast. Because what I saw with Jeremy, he would panic. I mean, it wouldn't be his bell was rung and he couldn't count. He had concussion. He would just overthrow. And I have heard people say that in practice, it's on the money. He doesn't miss a thing. So I do think you go live. His issue is speed of the game, speed of the defenders. They need to be knocking his ball down if they can. And he needs to, we got SEC caliber. Put some starters over there at DB. Put Trey Matthews over there. Get him over there trying to knock his ball down and get him used to the speed. But no, you don't go lay your quarterback out during practice. You don't get him a concussion during spring practice. So I think a little common sense, but I have no problem with going live for everybody else.
Thank you, buddy. Hey, we sure do appreciate the phone call. Let's quickly get one more. We'll go a couple of minutes over on this segment and get one more phone call in. Terry, you're on Sports Call.
Gentlemen, I hate to call back. Let me ask you something. You're the gurus of all the stats. How many SEC teams go live and how many don't? And I hang up and listen to that.
No earthly idea. I think that's what I brought up at the get-go. I mean, I think there's so many different opinions, and I think there's so many differing ways that coaches get to the end product. And those that aren't, it doesn't mean those that aren't always physical. I don't know how Baylor practices. I sure do like watching them play offensive football. They may not hit each other any. But they get out there and they move it around. So I keep going back to the same thing. What do I want to see with Auburn's offense next year? Please just run tempo again. Let's just go back to what the bread was buttered by. Andy, are you good with that?
Absolutely. And look, I think it depends on the team. I mean, different coaches may do it different in different years. If you only got a couple of scholarship quarterbacks, certainly you don't go live at all. But I think it just depends on the situation. And we've got several quarterbacks this year, so I think maybe this may be one of those where we don't exactly know maybe what we can get. So going live with common sense, as Grenade says, probably is maybe the best option. Up against a break here, but give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll free locally at 334-887-3401. More to come right after this.
First thing I remember knowing.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sportscall. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401. Should Auburn quarterbacks go live this spring? That is the question of the day. Had a great response, and we'll go back to the phone.
William, you're on Sports Call.
Guys, good afternoon, guys. War Eagle.
War Eagle to you. Glad to have you on, William.
Thank you. Right before y'all went to the break, you mentioned how fun Baylor's offense is to watch, and I'd agree with that. And on the subject of quarterbacks going live, it kind of got me thinking about something about their offense that I recall reading back in the fall. Do y'all remember reading anything about this where Art Briles actually coaches his receivers to take plays off?
I don't know as I recall that.
There was an article that was circulating on the internet. It was about he coaches his some of his receivers to take plays off to preserve energy. And maybe you wouldn't say take plays off. Maybe he doesn't coach it as that direct, but basically conserving energy so that they can run the hurry up and not have to sub in and out when they're, not running a crucial route on the play or, whatnot. And I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that, see if y'all really think that happens, and if it's something that could actually help a hurry up offense.
Great question, William. We appreciate the phone call this afternoon. I'll say this. Receiver stalk blocking and routes where you run the defender off, which is normally running routes where you're just trying to get the defender's back turned to the play. You're running nonstop. You're wearing yourself out completely, and I could see this being reasonable to me.
I mean, you see it in the NFL all the time, guys just kind of.
Well, you see some guys do it.
Well,
you see others like, Terrell Owens one. He's going to block you up to the end, and that's just kind of what he was. But a lot of others.
I'm talking about when you're the decoy or you're the right, you're running a guy off. They just kind of halfway. They're jogging out there. I mean, I definitely could see that.
But what William's saying in this up-tempo brand where you want your guy fresh and you can't substitute in and out, it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense to me.
It does, very much. I mean, that's what we keep complaining about the last couple of years. It seems like every third play there's a sub package that we keep bringing in, and that keeps holding everything up.
Yeah, when this particular article came out, it was earlier in the year, I remember, and people were questioning it, saying, you can't coach that. But, it's hard to argue results. And his offense is among the best in the nation and probably the best hurry-up offense out there, I would have to say right now.
I totally agree with you, and that's the reason when the pictures were circulating 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I know that Art Briles and Coach Malzahn are big buddies. I just want to see tempo. I want to see the offense back. You got to build a culture. It is what you are. It doesn't mean you don't change it mid-stride like we've seen some coaches be able to do. But right now, I think the hurry-up's still working. Still working for a lot of colleges out there, and I think Coach Malzahn does it as well as anyone. I just want to see us get back to it, Andy.
Yeah, me as well. William, got anything else for us?
I think quarterbacks should go live until a starter is identified. I think maybe we learned that from this past offseason.
William, good call, buddy. And Andy, home run on the question of the day, bud. I tried to go ahead and throw it out there at the get-go if somebody's got an answer for this one. But, the more the callers call in and the more reasonable you think about it, William just makes a good point there. Not a starter. How do you determine? How do you weigh them if you're not putting them in live situations a lot? I'm talking about, really live situations. How do you determine? I think it's very hard to do.
Yeah, I'm sure that we want to give, and we've, have an intention to give Woody Barrett a fair shake at this quarterback competition. But if we don't know we don't have a really good idea who our quarterback's going to be coming out of spring, I think we failed at spring practice, taking advantage of an opportunity. I really think we need to know going into the fall because whoever it is, they've got some work to do. So, and especially if it is a guy that hasn't played before in this offense. So I think those things are important. I think that's definitely something Auburn's got to get done in the spring.
Couple of minutes left in this segment, so I want to quickly bring up and just segue into the next segment. You said NFL trying to do everything they can to take the kickoff return out of the game. You bring it up to me quickly, and I'm supposed to answer it quickly. And the reason that's a good question, Andy, because I enjoy watching kickoff return. This one's a 50-50 for me because it is brutal. I mean, these wedge busters, these are guys that just are kamikazes. They can be monsters, or they can even be the smaller type that just don't mind contact and fastest guy on the team types. But I mean, it's a Scud missile coming at you, and you're supposed to sit there and expect this not to be a problem when you're hearing all the head trauma that's going on in football. So I can see why. Do I enjoy watching a good kickoff return for a touchdown from time to time? And I think it's a vital part of the game. Yes. So it would change it drastically to me. What about you?
Yes, it would. I mean, it would. Not drastically, I don't think. I don't know after a couple of years, I'm not sure I'd miss the kickoff. But, of course, they moved it from the 30 to the 35 a couple of years ago. Now they're talking about, and it looks like maybe they will, move the touchback from the 20 to the 25. College already done that. Maybe the NFL kind of following college here, but I'm like you. Or it looks like kickoff returns dropped from 80.1% to 41.1% from like 2010 to 2015. So that's an enormous drop just by moving the kickoff up to the 35. Now, if you move it up a little bit more, you're total. You're giving the total as much incentive as possible to not return the kick. And I mentioned this to you. I remember vividly Auburn putting Brandon Jacobs on special teams as the wedge buster against Vanderbilt in 2003, and it was one of the most vicious hits I've ever seen. I'm not sure that guy's still. I'm not sure he's right yet because he knocked him out, and there's no question he had a concussion. I thought he was dead. I mean, he hit him that hard, and I felt so sorry for that guy. But I mean, he did his job. I mean, he tried to create a wedge, and Brandon Jacobs unwedged him, and it was brutal. And I wouldn't want to be one of those guys, not for anything.
888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. We bounced it around a lot. We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk a lot about several more topics that are rolling around out there, Andy. Don't worry, we're not done.
Should Auburn quarterbacks go live this spring? Would you miss the kickoff if it was just basically administrated out of football? The kickoff maybe should be put on the endangered species list in NFL football. What do you think about that? 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll free locally at 334-887-3401. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sportscall. Andy and Randy here with you for about 25 more minutes, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401. A couple of questions of the day out there. Should Auburn quarterbacks go live this spring, and would you miss the kickoff if it was legislated out of football?
I said yes. You said no. Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, let's go back to the phone line and see what they say. John, you're on Sports Call.
Good morning. Or morning. What am I doing? Afternoon.
It all works, John. We get you, buddy.
Hey, listen, you mentioned Brandon Jacobs a couple of minutes ago, and I'll share something with you if I may. You know, Brandon didn't get to play a whole lot, and I took a bunch of kids over there. We got the freebie seats, and we were playing Western Kentucky. And at the end of the game, sort of second half, Brandon Jacobs got to play. And he broke containment, as they say, and there was nothing between him and the goal line except a little bitty defensive back. And I said, this is not going to turn out good. And he ran over him about as bad. It looked like a grown man running against a second grader. And he absolutely destroyed him. And I felt sorry for the kid. I didn't know what to do because I could just see it coming. I said, why don't you just, take a dive? That would be the best thing to do right here. But he didn't. He manned up and he shouldered up to him, and Brandon just ran all over him. And he was much of a man, is my point, as we're all well aware.
He definitely was. And while you're saying this, I'm still trying to come across how in the world we sold him to come to Auburn that year, because we were so deep in the backfield, and he could have played really anywhere else, and ends up being probably the best NFL back out of the three, wasn't he? I mean, I don't think there's
career.
Yeah.
All the way up and down. I mean, he actually had a Darnell stayed hurt all the time, but already played his heart out, but he just was very talented. He looked like a bona fide superstar his first year up until he got hurt, and he just kept getting hurt. And then Ronnie had some issues too, and he was kind of worn out, I think, to some degree. And if you reflect back on it, then really Brandon probably had the best overall NFL career by a good bit, really.
I tell you, Andy, that's good for I'm going to have to make you up a nickname on your stat side, but that'd be a good stat for you to go out there and reach and see how those three panned out in their NFL career up against one another. John, we appreciate the phone call this afternoon.
Take care, bud.
Thank you. Let's go back to the phone lines. I think we got a repeater here. William, you back with us on Sports Call?
Yeah. I couldn't help but call in the second time because I heard one of the other topics. I wasn't aware y'all were talking about, and I thought of something. I want to ask y'all something real quick. Do y'all think of a team this past season in college football that would have, hurt very badly from the kickoff being taken away?
This past season?
Yes.
I'm sure you're hinting at something, but nothing's jumping to my mind.
Think about the the playoff national championship game.
Well, I definitely think of one.
Well, yeah, a couple of years ago.
You're talking
I would gladly take away the kickoff in that one.
Yeah, now, yes, a couple of years ago, we would have benefited, but think about this last playoff championship between Alabama and Clemson.
Yeah.
Alabama scored, 14 points off. Well, you could argue one was indirectly related, but 14 points off kickoff. An onside kick and a kick return for a touchdown. And I'm not trying to pick on Alabama. It happens all the time to different teams, but I say that to say how much that would take away just from one particular instance in college football.
Yeah, that's one aspect of it I didn't really, think about. If you take away the kickoff, you take away the onside kickoff. So, if you come back, yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. If you're trying to come back in a game, and that's something that you just totally, miss out on.
I don't like it, Andy. I mean,
the more you think about it,
the more I think about it, the less I like it. And William, I mean, how about you? I mean, do you veer one way or the other?
Well, I don't like it. I like the kickoff and hope it would stay. And I do understand, I think with a lot of the emphasis on protection and safety and head injuries. They're trying to find ways to keep the product without, totally messing with it. And they probably see this as a way that wouldn't really affect the game very much as we see it. But, my point is you take a recent high-profile game in college football, as a matter of fact, the highest profile game you can get. You take away the kickoff from that game, and you likely have a different outcome.
Well, that's one. I guess that's why the NFL is doing everything they can to just discourage you bringing it out of the end zone, moving it up to 35 now, giving the touchback at the 25. You still have the kickoff, but nobody ever is going to bring it out. So maybe it only happens maybe 20% of the time, which that would probably cut injuries, certainly down to a very, very close minimum, which is probably good for everybody.
Yeah, and you don't really see too many onside kicks in the NFL like Alabama did, but in that particular situation.
Now, Green Bay a couple of years ago, they wish they could field one.
Yeah, but anyway, that was just a thought. Union Drake returned that one all the way up for a touchdown, and then they got that onside kick, and I just that occurred to me when I heard y'all were talking about that. But anyway, that's all I had.
Thank you so much, William. We appreciate the phone call. 888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. I'm looking down the SEC stats in baseball. Andy, I may sound like a broken record every year. Boy, there's some good teams in SEC play. Now, do they beat up on one another once conference play starts? Of course. But right now, Florida's number one. They've lost one ball game. Look down, and number 2 team in the country is Texas A&M. Yeah, Auburn does get one, but they've lost 2 ball games all year. It's baseball, by the way. This is tough to reel off records like this. So you got the number 1, 2, 5, 8, 10, 14, 15, and 20th ranked teams in the country sitting here in the SEC, and these records just tell you how strong they are. No doubt. It's every week. I mean, it's week in, week out. That's why it's the best league in America. And that's why you look at it and you say, yeah, Auburn lost 2 of 3 this weekend, but boy, they knocked around some really good pitching in Texas A&M. So you think, well, at least you take some positive from this weekend, and the fact that you could take at least one game from the number 2 team in the country, that'll make you feel a little better. I mean, you can look at it this way: Auburn's 2-2 last week against top 25 teams. They beat Georgia Tech, they beat Texas A&M, they lost 2 to Texas A&M. So. It was really a pretty good week. Baseball, you don't think of it in terms of sweeps. You think of it in terms of let's just take 2 of 3. Let's take, let's try to be as 500 or something. Of course, you'd rather be that record wise, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. Let's go back to the phone lines. James, you're on Sports Call.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're good.
I think they should go live, at least in the passing, and I think they should pass 1,500 times if they can, because I think that's their problem. They don't let them see live action in passing games. And so when Chairman really get in a game, he don't have the experience. I know he played a couple of games, but you got to get these guys experience in seeing what they can see and seeing what defenses throw at them. So in the passing game, I think they should throw every day live, and they should go get, all sorts of blitzes or whatever, coverages or whatever, and let the guys throw 1,500 times. I went to a spring practice, spring game a couple of years ago, and it got through 10, 15 passes, and he was new going into the season. You don't know what these guys can do if they can't see live footage. So yes, I think they should let them go live. Maybe not, unless it's a blind side hit and stuff, but everything else should be live. And the thing that, I know y'all was talking about Brandon Jacobs today. The thing that gets me, guys, is I'm going to keep hopping this till I'm blue in the face. If you got players over there, like offensive linemen, defensive linemen, if you do not play your players, people going to leave. And they going to say you play space. They're like going into the spring ball. Let every position go, but let these guys compete. They don't do that over there, man. And that's, you see, Chris Westerman went to Arizona State, and now he's the number 3rd guard in the be kicked off the board, and he said because Auburn didn't want to play it. You got to play your guys if you got them. Just like all these offensive linemen that redshirted last year. I can name one that's probably going to be able to play this year because they really don't want to give them a chance. Play your people. Get them ready, man. Just get everybody ready. And that's my only thing about Auburn, and it goes way back. When Pat Dow was here, Pat Dow played one offensive line, two offensive lines there. You can play one free throw series, and then you'll get a second group one series. That way you get guys involved, man. I don't want to be sitting on no bench for 3 years waiting on a senior to lead when I know I can play. But anyway, man, and let me ask you another question. I see that Agent Frank Thomas is the only SEC baseball player inducted into the Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
That's correct, James.
Swimming program with under my man. We done went from a perennial program to
I think we're losing James.
Don't be a stranger, James. You went a couple of different directions, and it may take us a little bit to get through those last two. Is Frank Thomas the only MLB Hall of Famer from the SEC? Yes, that is correct. What in the world happened to the swimming program at Auburn? I'd have to do a lot of research to get you some whole answers on that, Andy.
I can address that a little bit maybe when we come back. But
are you serious?
Yeah, a little bit. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401. We'll up against our last break. We'll be back with one final segment on the Tuesday Sports Call right after this.
Sing it, Andy. Come on, man.
Welcome back, everyone, to the final segment of the Tuesday Sports Call. Andy and Randy taking you home to 6 o'clock here. Still time to get that final phone call in. 1-888-9-Tiger-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401. I'm hurrying because I want to get these 2 phone calls in.
Well, that, and I want to apologize to everyone. There's a good chance we're not going to be able to get Andy's take on what's happened to the swimming program. Back to the phone lines. Another James, you're on Sports Call.
Yeah, I was listening to the last caller that was just called in. About like the different changes of the football players that are going to actually what I'm trying to say is that if a head coach is going to actually play that particular player, should stay in until during the second quarter of the game, and then just rotate them out in between each quarter.
Okay.
I don't think you see that too often, and James did bring that point up, and I think that it may have happened. I mean, I don't know.
You're talking about offensive line. We did run 2 offensive lines back in the day when Neil Callaway was there, and you don't see that ever at all anymore. I don't know why. It makes a lot of sense, but you just don't ever see that anymore.
And then, not on that particular note, why would they have 2 players wearing the same jersey number? That would give the fans in Auburn when they actually call that player's number out or that player's name, that particular player should play through the whole quarter and then rotate during halftime.
Well, they started doing that, several years ago, people wearing the same number, offense and defense, but it's just the way they do it nowadays.
James, we appreciate it, buddy. Let's quickly go back to the phone lines. Got one more phone caller. Got a few more minutes here. Terry, you're on Sports Call.
Swimming, baseball, and football. Swimming, David Marsh left on the baseball. The team started out with playing terribly offensively. Am I correct?
Well, yeah.
It wasn't great, but it was actually a step up from what we've seen in years past. Wouldn't you go that far?
Offensively, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm saying, but haven't we proved greatly over the first time we played Georgia Tech to the second time we played them, and since we played Texas A&M, and the offense improved dramatically, or am I mistaken?
No question about it, Terry.
We started off pretty hot, went through a 5-game stretch. We couldn't hit the ball to save our life, and now we've gotten hot again.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm encouraged. My point I'm trying to make is I'm encouraged by how they play. Yeah, they lost to Texas A&M, and yeah, we ain't there to lose, but I'm still encouraged by how the offense has come around, and hopefully that'll continue to get better. Lastly, football. Please don't take the kickoff away. I mean, I hate messing with tradition, and all the great games that I've seen came down to the end, and the team's down by 2 scores, and they have to score. They do, and they got to get the onside kick, and they do, and they win. How many times have we seen that? A lot over the 30 years. I mean, take away all of that great stuff. You also take away the ability to switch field position on a kickoff. I mean, how many times have we seen that? You get a kickoff, you run it back, 60 yards, and you switch field position, change the momentum of the game. I hope they don't mess with that. I'm totally against that. Anyway, I'll get off and let y'all comment. Thanks. Bye.
Appreciate it. 888-9-Tiger-9.
Terry took he said exactly what I was going to say.
He did. He jumped right in there.
David Marsh left.
What's up with Kirby Smart and transfers?
I mean, it's what a lot of coaches do, I guess. I mean, Mark Rick, I think, was the anomaly in that he let his players pretty much transfer anywhere they wanted to go. But Kirby Smart comes in and says not going to be the case anymore. Doesn't I think Saban does it. Everybody does it, I think.
I think we got about a minute left. Got another phone caller. James, you're on Sports Call. James, you back with us?
Yeah, I am. I'm here. Yeah, because just like that last caller that just made that comment about, I don't know what he was talking about, but, from the other callers before him, some people, they should, just like I said before about the football players actually, switching out and everything. But they need to, play them more and then just let them rest for a while on the sideline so they can, read the playbook and everything. For the new players that are actually coming into the season, because I know the spring game is next month. So before now and then, they need to actually Gus Malzahn needs to actually get some of the new players a playbook so they can actually know what they're going to be looking at during the fall of the first season opener against Clemson.
James, great call, buddy. We appreciate it. Up against the close of the program.
He said, I don't know where to go.
888-9 Tiger 9. Call back. We'd love to hear from you tomorrow. I think I might have to close out for Andy tonight. So we do appreciate all the phone calls out there. Got to get the playbook together. Andy's done. This feels like Brett and I have had a couple of football games that have gone this way when a punt's hit off the back or the ball has been kicked directly into the back of the up back for an extra point or a field goal. But we had a lot of phone calls.
We did. It's been an interesting show. Never know quite what you're going to get. A lot of opinions, one way or the other. A lot of opinions on a lot of different topics. But I think we're going to. Oh, man.
I'm waiting for music, Andy. We're needing it badly. Come on, Chase. Help us back
please. Please. That's going to do it for the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. I am Andy Greb. He is Randy Lee. So long. We'll talk again soon.